I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Erick Oh, the writer and director of the animated short film Namoo, which was recently shortlisted for the Best Animated Short Film Oscar. Erick, the first question I wanted to ask is, what is the significance of the tree, which is the center of this, and is that something that's reflective of something in Korean culture?
Uh, yes and no, because tree that's like everywhere in the world. But now I'm based in California, which is like we don't have clear four seasons. We see always these palm trees out there. But I grew up in Korea for the most of my childhood, and Korea, just like East Coast in the States, it has a four clear seasons. So tree transforms over the passage of time. So in spring, it has like a wonderful flowers and blooming into life, and then in summer it's like a full of green, like youth and color. And then when it get into fall, red and yellow, enchanting, colorful, like bright and light. And then it loses all the leaves and becomes a very fragile branch, and then it cover itself with the pure white snow, and then it all the way gets back to the spring. So that is really the trunk of this core message of Namu, the film. And then I think growing up in Korea just gave me that look. It just unconsciously been in my back in my head for a long, long time. So I think that's how I got to choose tree as a main symbol object of this film.
So, where did the idea for this short film originate?
So we have to travel back in time a little bit. So the core idea of Namu, which means tree in Korean, was actually designed almost 10 years ago when I lost my grandfather. So it was my first time losing somebody who's very close to you. So when that happens, you just got to think about a lot about your life. Where do we come from? What do we live for? Where do we go afterwards? All those things. So while during the grieving process, I made myself a little doodle. I made myself a little like picture book quality drawings of a man who hangs his own object and belongings into the tree. I actually don't even remember how I did that, but I literally made these drawings and just kept it to myself, never shared that with anybody else. And that's been just sitting in my mental drawer for a long, long, long time until recently, about 2 years ago, I had this inner calling that maybe it's time for me to take it out and comprehend further and deeper, and then share with the world in a form of the short film. So that was the genesis and origin of Namu.
One of the very striking things that made me think at first that this was a story about you was seeing this person, this main character, develop an artistic sensibility and with drawing and painting. Was that something that your grandfather had wanted to pursue, but for whatever reason wasn't able to?
Not really. So Namu is not about my grandfather. It's more of a story that I was inspired by my time I spent together with my grandfather, but not only my grandfather, but also all my family members. So the story of Namu is the mixed combination of my own outlook on life, my own childhood, and my memory about my grandfather and my father, and like all those people I love around me. So my grandfather was an educator. He wasn't a painter. I am an artist. So this is a good mix. Yeah. But art here, as you probably noticed, it just stands for something you love. It doesn't have to be painting. It doesn't have to be art. It's just something that defines you, who you are.
Basically what your passion is.
Yes. Yeah.
So, this is strikingly different from the short film that we saw from you last year, Opera, which was this massive, intricate piece. And I was curious as to what did you find to be the biggest difference in working on this more intimate project than one like Opera?
So what's interesting is that, on a surface, Opera and Namu, yeah, drastically different, two different projects. But at a core, I feel like I'm talking about the same human things. Like, for example, Opera was all about observation of our humanity, society, civilization, our history. On the other hand, Namu is just all about one person's life. It's like a one person's internal journey to yourself. But at the end of the day, it is about celebration of life, because life is full of ups and downs, beautiful things, ugly, truth, all those mixed together, we call it life, right? So both films touch upon those two factors in our life. But of course, the approach was completely different, you know. So when making opera, my vision was outward. I was observing, I was studying, while Namu was really journey to own my deeper into myself. So that was the biggest difference as a creator, as a storyteller. Yeah, so that's how it came out. Yeah.
One of the other things I noticed, I was that's so striking about this short is the fact that, you know, it looks at first like just your regular 2D animation, but then it adjusts the perspective and it goes into that 3D thing. Was there what kind of process goes into sort of overlapping those two styles of animation?
Yeah. So one unique thing about, it's a bit technical thing, but the one unique part about this film Namu is that this is entirely painted and animated in virtual reality. Not sure if you knew it or not, but it is true. So this 12-minute short, everything was done in the headset, drawing and painting in VR application. And so it was a whole new way to animate and design the film, which was amazingly fun, at the same time, very challenging. So that was why we were able to achieve that particular look and aesthetic you just described. First of all, I really want this to be carrying on this tactile hand touch watercolor tone, very two-dimensional, very poetry-like, very like a picture book quality-like. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to create another layer of three-dimensional realistic depth on top of it. So at first, as you described, it just starts off as a simple picture book quality, but as the boy grows, as the tree grows, it becomes more real and real and real. And even cinematography follows that, growth as well. And because we were doing it in three-dimensional space already through virtual reality, we were able to start putting more complicated camera movement and three-dimensional angles.
So one of the other very distinctive things about this film is the score of the film, which is so striking. And I was wondering what the process was like of developing the score of this film with the composers.
So from the get-go, I already knew that this is going to be a very musical film because I didn't want any dialogue. It's going to be a poetry. It's going to be visual poem with the visual and music. So for the most of the film projects, the music usually comes into play late in the game, almost as a post-production. But I, reached out to our composer friends almost in the beginning of the production. As soon as I had this pitch material ready, I went to them, like Zach and Matt. They are just good composer pals. I worked on several of my previous films with them, so they are like good friends of mine. But I went to them, hey, I've got this idea. And they already thankfully got inspired by my verbal pitch and some of my drawings already. And they started writing the scores, just temp scores. I mean, not temp, like their scores, scratch music with their piano. And we already came up with this nice top line, the melody line, and all this mood and vibe, even before started animating. So it was, the animated artist had this rare experience that we were already listening to original score already while working. So that just helped us be in the same zone, same in the vibe. And then of course, in the post-production, they came back to finalize all the music, but I kind of wanted to emphasize that how much I cared about music as a device to tell this story.
So as I mentioned before, last year, you became familiar to a lot more people with your short opera because we talked last year while you were a shortlisted person, and then you actually scored the Oscar nomination in Best Animated Short Film. And I was wondering, what was that experience like of getting nominated and getting to attend the ceremony?
Oh my God, it was, I still can't believe that if that really happened in my life or in my dream. It was such an amazing experience, and it was a big honor. And then it was great because as you probably know, because of this crazy pandemic situation, I'm sure this year's Oscar is going to be the same, but last year's Oscar was very intimate, family-like environment. So it was only nominees and plus ones. So in this patio, everybody's there, really, and it usually it takes place in the Dolby Theater in Hollywood, but this time was Union Station, so that everyone could hang out outdoor. So that was how the ceremony was like. But yeah, I had a blast. It was just big honor. Yeah.
Well, Erick, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best again during the season. And to all of our viewers, please like this video, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you.